Thanks, Brian. Obviously, it just returned from the Bahamas. Weather was much different. But it was good to get back and get back into the flow of things yesterday afternoon and go again today and get ready for a good NC State team. Thought we learned a lot over the 3 games that we played down there. Some things that we did really well and obviously some areas that we got to continue to improve upon, but thought it was a great experience. And anytime you can get in those and play that type of competition consistently back to back to back helps expedite your development as you go through the year. So look forward to getting back here at home and hopefully representing the Big Ten well in the challenge and then moving on to league play at the end of the week.
Brad, Davison's obviously in a little different role this year. Do you need to do some things to get him a little more involved in the offense, or are you comfortable with the way things are playing out so far?
Well, I think the one thing is he's still adjusting to not having to carry the heavy load like he did a year ago. There's obviously we have a lot more options and a lot more places we can go to for production. So I think it's been an adjustment period for him. I think not trying to do too much at times, taking the game as it comes to him has been something that he's continued to work through. And then obviously shot selection, the type of shots that he ends up taking is something that we continue to evaluate and help him with. But it's the same high energy, toughness, those plays are nonstop with him, and we need to continue to have that. And he'll continue to grow into his role and adjust to having, not having to do, I don't want to say not having to do as much, but we have a lot more, we're surrounding him with a lot more people right now that can help out.
Greg, was Dimitri a good shooter in high school? Did he shoot the ball pretty well as a freshman, would you say? And did you see this coming, the way he's been able to shoot the ball early this year?
Well, I don't know. I can't attest to his high school days too much because when I saw him really in high school, it was when I was recruiting his older brother, Travis. So I know he spent a lot, and that was part of his whole thought process behind going to IMG, that he had spent so much time. This time of year during his high school, he was just coming off football playoffs. So he really never had a time to really sink his teeth into the basketball and be basketball only. Hence the reason to go to IMG to focus just on basketball. He's a coach's son, so yeah, I think skill level you would expect to be pretty high. Knowledge of the game and competitiveness would be pretty high. So I can't say that I would see it coming because I didn't see him in those early years as much. But I'm probably not surprised just because I've always thought technique-wise he did some things really well. Shot was good, rotation was good, form was good. He had the fundamental components. It was a matter of getting stronger. It's a matter of just having more repetitions. And I think the one thing is he's taking pretty good shots. I think the shot selection and quality has been pretty high, and that obviously when you take better shots, the odds that they're going to go in usually spin in your favor. So I think he's done a pretty good job to this point of being selective of the ones he does take. And there's other areas of his game that I've liked that have grown. The defensive ability and some of the decision making has been better, a little more consistent. So it's good to be in a position where he can impact the game, and he's had those where the ball doesn't go in, and he's still done some positive things to help us. So I don't want to have him be in a mindset where he's so dependent that he's emotionally attached to whether the ball goes in or not. There's a lot of ways you can impact the game, and he's getting better at that.
Coach, what, if any, limitations is Lane Ford still working through, and where do you want to see him make the biggest impact in his first few games back?
Well, I think, first of all, he hasn't practiced. He practiced full-time for the first time yesterday. Since we had him for a very limited time. He was really on a pitch count on Tuesday in the Bahamas with us. I used him just for a little bit and knew he was in a very limited role in games. And I could tell specifically in the Virginia game that the timing wasn't there. He was a step slow in reactions and seeing things and moving, and it was just a lack of not being in practice and having the reps. So now that we're back, slowly continue to work with our medical staff. I don't know, I haven't talked to them yet today in terms of where he's at based off how he practiced yesterday, but I think it's just a matter of getting back in and getting reps and getting timing. And before he got hurt, man, he was playing really well. He played really well against Iowa State in the close scrimmage we had, and unfortunately, obviously, those things happen. So see him get sidetracked a little bit. Hopefully, he can get back to the flow and the pace he was playing with before that, because he was doing some really good things.
Craig, can you expand on that a little bit? Because when we saw him play last year, he was probably the best part of his game was his three-point shot. But what things was he doing better at the time than at last season?
Well, I think all parts of his game have evolved. Better defender, better ball handler, scoring at the other two levels. And I think that you attribute that all to just having more experience. Another year, adding weight, adding strength, all the reps that he got a year ago, all the experiences he was a part of a year ago, all those continue to be put into his bank, so to speak, and he can draw upon all those experiences, and he's done a good job of that. So we just got to help him get back to where he was and how he's playing and continue to grow.
Coach, when you look at that Virginia game and you see you have 10 more points in the paint, you outshoot them, you out-rebound them, do you kind of tell your team, if we do our two staples, taking care of the basketball and get to the free throw line, look how good we can be?
Yeah, I think you have to play a complete game, and a complete game means some things statistically, but a complete game also means for as much of the 40 minutes as you can. We played really good 20 minutes of defense the second half to hold them to what we did, shooting percentage-wise, points per possession, all those things. That was some good signs. I thought the fight and the unwillingness to lay down and give in, to come back and to have a lot of opportunities, even in the second half. We had it at 5 several times and had the ball. And you got to be able to cash in and take advantage of your opportunities. And obviously some of that credit goes to Virginia, because obviously they're a good team. But we got to be better at maximizing some opportunities. But there's a lot of potential with this group, and we went through the film yesterday. There's a lot of things that we could have done better in both halves that will put us in a much better position than where we finished.
Craig, what do you think? How do you think Nate is playing right now, and in what areas do you need to get more out of him as the season progresses?
I think being more aggressive offensively. We need to find him too. There's some guys in the post that we've missed that have been open, not named Ethan Happ, and that's kind of been my thing with the team. Other guys can catch the ball and do things in there other than Ethan, and obviously he's terrific at doing it, but we are not touching some other guys as much as we need to inside, and Nate's one of them. So I think being more aggressive, obviously the job he's done defensively for the most part has been pretty good. I'd like to see him rebound even more, and I know he's always had a blockout responsibility and try to keep somebody off the glass, but I'd like to see him go get some numbers too and attack the ball a little bit more off the glass, and hopefully that he can continue to take steps forward in those areas.
Right. What type of team are you facing tomorrow night, Greg?
Completely different what we saw Friday. Instead of being 60 possessions, it'll be 120. Kevin does a good job of implementing what he wants to do with rotating 10 guys through, playing 94 feet for 40 minutes, trying to speed you up. Some pressure that'll come for the most of the game, and not particularly, just it'll have a different feel than what Virginia had in terms of the type of game. And instead of a half-court fist fight or rock fight, it'll be more, they'll play a little smaller lineup at times. Obviously, you got really good players in Bryce and Doran, and then some other names that we obviously recognize through some Midwest kids or guys that we've been involved with through the years. But it's a good team. It's a good team that totally different style-wise, and that's one thing that we've talked about and we've prepared for yesterday and we'll continue today. That it'll have a different feel probably than what the Virginia game had.
Greg, I know you weren't happy with the turnover total against Virginia, but overall, are you happy that the foundation's been laid with this team in terms of valuing the ball better than perhaps last year?
Well, they have an appreciation for how valuable that is, and they know just from we had 12 in the Virginia game as we went through it, how valuable those are. I mean, you always like to have a 0 in that column, but if you cut it in half, what can you do with those other 6 possessions? And when you're in a game like that, when you're playing a possession for possession game, and there's gonna be low possessions typically in those type of games, how valuable those are and how we could, use that to our advantage. So I think they have an appreciation of it and understand how important and vital that is. Regardless of opponent, we have to be sound and consistently sound.